Looking at the book and your work in broad brushstrokes, how would you describe your economic ideology? Would you call it a sort of constrained capitalism, regulated capitalism?
Well, I'd call it community economics. In other words, the closer that production, food, credit unions, community health clinics, energy organizations and producers, the closer it is to the community, then you can experiment with all kinds of models. The small business model, the cooperative model, the mutual model, the model that we've never thought of because we've never experimented at that level. The real problem is that economic decisions are made for people from Tokyo, from Chicago, from London. There's no way they can grasp it. It's so remote and it's so concentrated in terms of power. So we don't necessarily need to call it an ism, but we need to say, what's the best function? If you wanted to have a food market, is it good to have farmer markets and then consumers and then to have community markets where the middleman is not in the way and give more of the price to the farmer? Okay, good. What do you call that? Well, that could be called small-time capitalism. Well, my father owned a restaurant, bakery, and delicatessen, so he's a capitalist. But he was extremely progressive, and with my mother raised some pretty progressive children. So capitalism, when it's in the hands of giant corporations, I always call corporate capitalism, in contrast to Main Street capitalism.
What do you think of Van Jones's vision of green-collar economy?
He's good. He's very articulate, African-American. He got very good media because he didn't stereotype himself and just stay with civil rights or whatever, poverty issues in the neighborhood. And he reached a lot of corporations, and he also highlighted some good corporations. But again, it's an example of how Obama throws people overboard. I mean, the slightest little criticism on some right-wing talk show, and it's goodbye, Van. It's like Clinton. Clinton never stood behind his people when they were criticized by right-wingers.
You have informed some of the people that you base characters on in your book that their names and likenesses are in this book, and some of them have gotten back to you. Do you think that this book could really inspire some kind of a mini billionaires revolution that could, take up some of these real ideas? I mean, do you intend or hope for it to be a kind of handbook?
Well, I can answer your question if and when I get reactions from these people or some other super rich in an advanced age that wants to move from success to significance, because it takes two hands to clap. This book is the first hand, and I'm waiting for the second to clap. It may clap if it gets in Western Europe, or it may clap in Hong Kong or Asia. Who knows? But I don't think there's ever been a book of fiction where the people are championed by the big guys who take on the super big guys. That's very dramatic, and only do it with the organized population behind them.
But what could motivate a billionaire to suddenly become a radical activist after using the very system that they would attack that has made them a billionaire to suddenly care about the rest of us? I mean, Warren Buffett may be one person, but he, would he even go this far? He might go as far as to say, let's tax us more, but would he ever go this far?
They may want to go this far, but it takes a lot of stamina. I mean, these people just burned the candle for a year, and they were in their 70s and 80s. People who have a sense of self-worth, a sense of how they want history to look at them. Those are the people, they're not interested in that later age and making more money, a lot of them. They want to be known. That's why they give to the Metropolitan Opera or the Lincoln Center, or they endow something at a university in their name. They want to be recognized. And this is a spectacular way to be recognized. $1 billion communicated or assembled by 7-8 billionaires to get universal health care in America? I mean, what could be more gratifying in their entire lives than something like that? But you know, if you say it in nonfiction, it sort of goes in one ear and out the other. It becomes didactic and like lecturing. But if you have a fictional evolution of this thought of higher self-worth, maybe it'll get across.
I want to talk to you a little bit about healthcare with this debate and everything that's happening in Congress. I mean, obviously, the Democrats have really, once more, let folks down. But the demons are always seen to be the Republicans, not the Blue Dog Democrats, but the Republicans, because so much of what they say is so offensive. And I know that you've railed, of course, for so many years about against the Democrats. What is the best?
I don't
tactic?
rail against the Democrats. I criticize them.
What is the best tactic, you think, specifically against those centrist right-wing Democrats that don't have their constituencies? You know, people like Senator Max Baucus that come from states that don't even have a big population.
Well, first of all, you stay ahead of your opposition. The minute you allow yourself to fall behind the counterattack, you're on the defense. And once you're on the defense, your heels are hurtling backward, and it's hard to recover. He had the momentum after he was inaugurated, Obama, but he allowed the counterattack to become the offense. That's one. The second is, you got to raise money, and you have mass rallies in every town in Montana. You know, Helena and all these other towns. And you would see a different Max Baucus. There's about 1 million people in Montana. So where's the money to get the organizers in there and say, you're not representing the people. You've taken more money from Aetna and the health insurance industry than almost any other senator, Republican, and Democrat. Are you for sale, or do you represent Montanans? You know how long Max would take before he turned around? You rouse the population, picks them up by the scruff of the neck and says, you're going to lead us in the right way or you're gone.
And also touching on the media a little bit, in the book you have this vision that these billionaires would fund a media machine, and of course the right wing has a whole network and a whole slew of right-wing shock jocks. But progressives have Pacifica, we have community radio, and we had Air America, and a few other things. You know, is it going to take buying out MSNBC to get our word out?
It's interesting, MSNBC fired Phil Donahue because he was an early convener of pro and con on the Iraq War, and they didn't want to alienate Bush.
And Phil is in your book and gets a show.
Right. And by then, no, he rejects the show because now he has bigger fish to fry. There's a very funny scene there. But now, MSNBC is getting bigger audiences by putting liberal talk show hosts on MSNBC. So some of it will be a recognition that they got to get their niche, and they're not going to compete with Fox for right-wing audiences, so they compete for more liberal audiences. But the reason why progressive radio never can attain the audience of right-wing radio is that right-wing radio criticizes government that doesn't advertise, and progressive radio will criticize corporations who do advertise. So right from the beginning, Bush Bimbo, who in real life, Rush Limbaugh, is making $38 million a year because he is the tribune, the rationalizer, the serf of all these corporate interests who pour money into advertisements for his show.
Did you have a good time writing this book, finally?
Oh, great time. Flew out of my typewriter.
All 735 pages.
Yes, big print.
Ralph Nader, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. The website is onlythesuperrich.org to extend the consequences of this book and get your ideas and leads.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.